to prepare the sample. Usually for smelling we use things called smelling strips. How long should a smelling strip be? Somebody actually wrote about this. Sorry? Enough to reach, yeah, long enough to reach your nose. Yeah. This is 14 centimeters. Yeah. Edmund Renitzker recommends 18 centimeters, and I agree with him. Yeah. 18 centimeters is better. Why? Yeah, you're further away from your hands. Yeah. You actually need a slightly stiffer smelling strip than this for 18 centimeters long. But the ones I don't like, the ones that I find are really bad, are the ones you rip from a book and they have the jagged pieces, because every smelling strip is slightly different. Yeah. And when I go on to this next step, yeah, you'll see why when it's jagged, it may not give you the same results. Yeah. So the paper that's used is usually acid-free, alkali-free paper, yeah, neutral paper. Chromatography paper is very good for making smelling strips. This paper we went through 180 different papers to get to this. Yeah. We've compared it to the one that we think is probably better than ours, which is Orlandi's from New York, but they're about 10 cents per smelling strip. Yeah, so it's a bit. And the reason that they're 14 centimeters long and not 18 is partly to do with the thinness of the paper, but it's also to do with how the paper block comes in blocks. It comes in like 28 centimeters wide. So if we made 18, it cost us twice as much to making a smelling strip. So practicality comes into it, yeah? How thick should a smelling strip be? Of course, this must be the perfect thickness. Thin or thick? Orlandi's are thicker than ours.
Wouldn't it really depend on what you're smelling?
Fantastic answer. Can you elaborate on that?
I mean, if you're smelling something like a very light volatile oil, you could probably do away with a very thin strip. I'm just guessing, I'm not sure if I'm correct. And
yeah.
Whereas if you're smelling something which is heavier, for example, the concretes or something like that, that would probably need a little heavier smelling strip for some.
You're definitely on the right track. You're on the right track. What you're looking at is how the perfume spreads on the smelling strip. So if you drop a perfume onto the smelling strip, you want it to spread as far as possible and to dry out. And this allows the theoretical idea of one molecule thick, so that everything is coming off and you can smell everything. It's a little bit like a tweeter on a sound system, on a loudspeaker. You get everything coming off, yeah, and you can hear it definitely. But that's great. That's good for analytical smelling. But if you're selling perfume and you want to give the idea of being one smell, you need a thicker paper. So your paper needs to be thick. And then what happens there is that when you put the drop on there, it stays in one area and gives the idea of one smell. Yeah? So when you go into a department store, the papers that they use are quite thick. It holds the smell for longer and gives you this idea of being one smell. So when you're selling perfume, thick smelling strips. When you're analysing, thin smelling strips. Alex, we haven't got any alternative paper here, but something you can try is if you get two papers from two different companies and smell the same perfume, it's amazing what differences there are in the smell. Yeah. That's why we had to go through 180 different papers to get to this one, yeah. Yeah. Which gave us the best against all the different notes that we might smell. Anybody know why I did that?
So that it doesn't touch the surface.
Yep, so I can put it on the table. You'll see all the old style perfumers will have their smelling trees. Yeah, I've got a couple of antique ones, but they never actually get used anymore. But tend to smell by just the smelling strip on the table. Yeah, stops the sample touching the table. The other thing is hand-eye coordination. If you try this, if you straighten it out and then smell, and try to get as close to your nose as possible, you'll probably touch your nose. But if you do that, you can get quite close without actually touching your nose. So you get closer to your nose. Yeah. And ideally hold the smelling strip horizontal. I'm overdoing it, but yeah. So you're try to avoid this, because then you've got no hand-eye coordination. Yeah. And of course, it doesn't matter maybe for a perfume like this, but if you had something like Civet on the end of your smelling strip, it touches your nose, and then you've got to get alcohol and wipe your nose off, and it's not fun. So, okay. So that's preparing the sample. The other thing is that if you have a range of samples, let's say you had lemon oil, jasmine, and sandalwood to smell, which would you smell first? Lemon, because it's lighter, it will disappear from the olfactory bulb. We go into your olfactory bulb, disappear. Whereas sandalwood, if you smell that first, will go into your olfactory bulb, stay on the receptors, and release a lot slower. So it's the same as washing dishes. You wash the glasses before you wash the greasy plates. Yeah, you can get more done.